Grant Shapps. Hello to you, Mr. Shapps. Always great to see you. Thanks for joining us. Do you think the Queen was talking about you and yours?
Well, I think, comments made in private should stay in private, but I think we all share the desire to see progress made. And we know that there'll be, hundreds of leaders coming to Glasgow for COP. We will wait to see whether it all lives up to, they all live up to the expectations. It's very important that we get this job done.
Yeah, she was at a public event, not a private event.
Yes, I don't think her comments were intended
for talks and does nothing. Do you think she's talking about the government?
Well, she specifically referred to who was coming, actually, so I don't think it was. I don't think it was intended in that sense. But nonetheless, as I say, she made the comments, not intending it to be overheard. But I think everybody feels that we want to make sure there's progress, and there's been a lot of progress. Of course, it remains to be seen at COP26. The extent to which the world commits, but the UK has led the way on this, first country in the world to legislate for getting to zero carbon by 2050, and we're all doing a lot of work to try to get there.
Britain should prioritise economic growth over environmental protections in trade deals, according to a leaked government report.
Yeah, that's not correct, and actually, it's not what's actually happening either. Because even if you take, for example, the work being done with Australia, there's an entire chapter on environmental protection. So, the proof is in the eating with these things. I don't recognise that at all.
Environmental safeguards should also not be treated as a red line when other countries demand they are broken in trade agreements, according to officials in the Department of International Trade.
Well, as I say, I think Australia is probably the finest example you could find. That's a country where, as has been widely reported, there's still quite a long way to go when it comes to decarbonisation. They're using a lot of coal and so on. Haven't gone down the track that we've already gone down. But even in that trade agreement, as I say, entire chapter on exactly this issue. So that's not the case. In reality, environmental protections are being put right
at the heart. So you don't recognise any of those comments in that exclusive report that we had from our Sam Coates last night?
Well, as I say, proof is in the eating, and even with a country which isn't as far down the decarbonisation track as us, we've put it at the heart of the agreement.
OK, so that report is the details of that report are wrong. Let's see what
my experience, particularly with leaked details, is they tend to be pretty selective, Kay. But I don't know.
Let's see. Thank you for offering your view on that this morning. Let me ask you about your view on if the leader of China doesn't come to COP26, isn't it just a talking shop and a waste of time?
Well, there's already been a huge number of commitments, and including the leader of the president of the United States coming. Huge number of people who will be coming. A lot of time and energy gone into reducing carbon and people making pledges. And even with China, we've seen, for example, them recently pledge not to support more money going into building coal overseas, not in China, but the money they put into coal stations being built elsewhere. So that is a big move. Of course, we need them to do that domestically. Of course, they need to decarbonise, and they've set their own targets to decarbonise nationally as well. Of course, we want them there. We want everybody there. But let's see who comes, and the success the world can make of this. It's clearly important that we do.
But it doesn't matter to us if they don't come.
Well, look, I just said, of course we want them to come. I can't go around each individual leader and tell you exactly what their travel plans are.
You can't really compare a small third world country to somebody like China. The Chinese don't come, and so don't buy into COP26. It's blown out the water, isn't it?
I don't think you can call America or the entirety of Europe small third world countries.
I didn't.
You say most of the world is coming.
I didn't.
If countries don't come, they'll be the outliers rather than central to this. And most countries, I think, want to be relevant in this.
OK. Talk to me about toys, turkeys and pigs in blankets, all in short supply. You've got days, we're told, by the industry, rather than weeks to save Christmas. What are you doing about it?
Yeah, well, look, we know that the globe has woken up following coronavirus to this huge kind of supply chain issues everywhere around the entire world. But in this country, we've taken 25 different steps on the domestic side of that. That's the lorry driver side of things, and we're seeing it having a big impact. We've got now 3 times as many people applying to become lorry drivers every single day than we had before the crisis. I think we've got to be very careful not to, we mustn't try and report ourselves into a crisis. In fact, the ports are operating under plenty of pressure. But I was speaking to, for example, Felixstowe last night. That's the biggest container port in the country. And they were saying, only one time there may be a ship out at sea waiting to dock. In Los Angeles, they have about 60 ships out at sea waiting to dock at any one time. It's very much a global thing, and it's being managed pretty resiliently here.
Yeah, but I'm just asking what we are doing to fix it, because
Sure.
My understanding is that lorry drivers that you're trying to get in from Europe, the rules that you're going to put in place, you've relaxed those rules, but it's going to take several weeks for that to happen. Butchers who are going to come in from the continent, that is going to take several weeks, and they still have to speak good English in order to get here. Meanwhile, we're seeing panic buying in the shops. Shop shelves are empty, and the supermarkets are putting things like ketchup where the fridges are to try and make it look busy.
Well, first of all, the measures that I'm taking today are called cabotage. This is where a lorry driver from overseas can come here. At the moment, the rule is they can only make 2 pickups and drops within 7 days once they're here, domestically within the UK. Cabotage means that within a 2-week period, they'll be able to make unlimited number of pickups and drops. That's the equivalent of adding thousands of extra lorry drivers to the road, but we don't have to do anything with visas in order to do this. So it's a straightforward measure. It will come in towards the end of the year. It's one additional measure to the 24 that I've already or as a government we've already introduced to make sure that things flow. And as I say, there's evidence that that's working. You will have noted that the queues at the petrol pumps have gone, that we've got more people applying to become lorry drivers and more tests available than we had before coronavirus for people to pass their HGV
Understood,
tests.
Mr. Shapps. Sorry, but my point was, you said end of the year. The industry is saying needs to be the end of next week.
So a lot of these measures are already in place, and some of them have already started to, say, expand the number of places available for tests and relax a whole series. I don't think we've got time to go through all 25 of them, but they are on my Twitter page if anyone is interested. And these are having an impact, and it's enabling people to be able to get goods and services around in what I say is a global shortage. Perhaps you might say, well, why is it so extreme? Well, this economy is growing the fastest of all those in the group of 7, the G7 economies, which means that the pressures are, of course, very real. But people will be able to get things for Christmas. These measures are having an impact. They're loosening things up. And as I say, when I talk to the ports, they're saying, yes, it's busy. It's a globally busy picture. But if you compared us with what's happening in many other ports around the world, we need to keep this in proportion. Things are flowing.
You're promising Christmas is safe. I get it. You're promising Christmas is safe. No Grinch at Christmas in the Shapps household. So pleased to hear that. Let me ask you about something else, if I may. I put this to your colleague earlier on in the week, and he was telling. I was on holiday last week, and I was with a lorry driver, and he said one of the ways to have a quick fix is HGV drivers in the army can drive at 17 HGV trucks. You can't do that on Civvy Street until you're 21. He said a lot of road haulage, they come up through the family business and they want to be road haulage drivers, and they have to have that 4-year wait unless they go into the army to drive trucks there. Is that something that you will look at?
Yeah, just to end my last sentence, I was going to say, with Christmas last year, we were worried about being able to see loved ones and families. There'll be no issues with that this year, and we'll make sure that the supply chain is doing what it should be doing, which is what these measures that we're taking, including alterations to this cabotage today, is designed to do. And on truck drivers, look, I'm very up for things which make it possible for people to get into the business, and that's why I've changed the law, and I'm changing the law in a whole variety of ways, including making testing much more streamlined, simplification, and some of the additional things that we're able to do for passing driving tests that we couldn't do whilst we were in the EU, that we've been able to go back to pre-1997 rules, which were introduced by the EU Commission at the time, that made it harder for people to be qualified as lorry drivers. So I'll look at everything. actually, on this issue of how old you have to be to drive an HGV, I'll certainly have a look at that. And please thank your lorry driver friend for the idea. I'll look at anything which is going to make things easier.
I'm sure he'll be thrilled. He's watching in Portugal this morning. I told you I'd ask him, Steve. Let's see what happens as a result. Why do butchers who come over from Europe have to be able to speak good English?
Because this is part of, we've left the EU. We're now able to make sure that we have control over who comes here and for what purpose. And one of the visa routes, the main visa route rather, is that people have to be able to speak the language, have a skill which is not domestically available, have a guarantee of certain earnings so that they're not reliant on the taxpayer, the points-based system. And we've been able to pass that into law. What we want to do is invest in Brits, make sure that we're training up British workers, make sure that we're automating, investing in technologies, and making ourselves more productive. And it's something the economy hasn't done for years. We've constantly, whether it's lorry drivers or people in farming, been prepared to undercut people domestically rather than invest in people with a high skill, high wage economy. And that's what we're moving to here.
Yeah, although, it looks as though Brits don't want to cut up pigs for the public to eat. And we've got Europeans who will come and do that. They might not just have as good English as somebody in Wallsend. Why is that a problem?
Well, this country voted to take control of its own borders, and that's what we're making sure happens. We want the best and most skilled people from around the world. We're very globally open. We welcome people here from all around the world, but we're going to do that in a controlled way. And as I say, with the visa test, the regular visa test, one of the requirements is that people come in with the skills, but also the language abilities in order to take up those visas, and that's we want people domestically to be able to do those jobs, and of course the cheaper labour coming in over many years stops organizations from investing in technology, automating the way that we do things. It keeps productivity low. We want to be a high productivity, high wage.
No, I get that. I'm sorry, we're almost out of time, Mr. Shapps, and I've got two other things to ask you about, but I just want to press you on that. There's 100,000 pigs that are about to be put on pyres because we haven't got enough people to chop them up.
So we're actually today have included a range of different measures, including the amount of time and where pigs can be stored once slaughtered safely and still be then used. So that's actually the visa thing is only one part of a much wider package that I suspect we haven't got time to run through, but nonetheless it is designed to make sure that that things are as smooth as they can be as we go into this Christmas period.
Let's canter very quickly onto PCR tests. Should we? You're going to change the rules ahead of October half term so that we're going to have lateral flows rather than PCRs, is what I should say, for day 2 testing. How will the photograph that you send in to prove that you've had your test, how's that going to be verified?
Yeah, there are two things that will be required. One is you'll book that test as you would have done previously with a PCR test whilst abroad. So you'll have the reference number and that will go in your passenger locator form. After you've taken the test, you'll take a snap of the test and upload it just as confirmation that it's been taken. It's pretty straightforward and pretty quick to do. People will be actually accustomed to doing that a lot with the NHS tests, which you won't be able to take for the purposes of holidays because that's a sort of discretionary activity going away by and large. But people will be used to
but my specific
sometimes
question
taking
was,
a snap.
how will it be verified? How are you going to verify that the picture that you have relates to the person that allegedly took it?
Well, we'll have look. In this world, nothing is 100%. But up till now, we haven't been requiring any verification. As we move down,
you're going to base it on trust.
Of course, the system requires people to be honest. Like so many laws in this country, we ask people not to do things and put societal restrictions on people, and then we don't have a policeman on every corner in every home to make sure people aren't breaking the laws, of course.